Hello, and a warm welcome from Make Mothers Matter to our 61st session of the United Nations Commission for Social Development. The theme this year is creating full and productive employment and decent work for all as a way of overcoming inequalities. I'm an unusual choice as moderator for this talk. My name's Anne Fennell, and I'm chair of Mothers at Home Matter. And for the last 10 years, I've spent much of my time campaigning not to push mothers into paid employment before they are ready or their children are ready. That the work they're already doing in raising the next generation is most valuable and productive and vital for our children and society. True gender equality would recognise this contribution as equal. However, I recognise that we cannot be blind to the realities and real challenges faced by single mothers, many of whom have not chosen to be so. That many single mothers are acting as breadwinner and caregiver in a world that is quite often hostile to them, particularly in developing countries. We have a fantastic array of inspirational speakers and grassroots organisations from around the world who have seen a need and are responding. They bring hope, passion, and commitment to change. We have a very tight programme and many wonderful different organisations to get through, most of whom are members of MMM's diverse global network. So I will give a very short introduction to each. There will be a timekeeper to keep us on track. If you want to know a little bit more about each speaker, do look at the bio and the website. And there will also be a link on the chat. Please do use the chat to communicate and write any questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. These will be picked up and if time will be asked in the Q&A session at the end. To start our session, I would like to warmly welcome our keynote speaker, Antra Bhatt, statistics specialist with UN Women's Research and Data Team. Antra will shed light on the statistics and realities of single mothers and how to make them more visible to policymakers, many of whom are not even counted. Over to you, Antra.
Thank you very much, Anne. And thanks for also sharing the presentation. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I know people are based all across the globe. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you today. In my brief intervention today, which I believe I only have about 7 minutes in total, I will be sharing some of our work on statistics related to lone mothers and the issues that we have faced in trying to count them thoroughly in official statistics. So let's dive in, but just a word that I wanted to say before we go in. I will be saying lone mothers instead of single mothers, and through my presentation, you will see why that is so as well. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. Okay, great, thank you. So let me begin by showing you a snapshot of what the world looks like when we think of households and families. So unlike popular assumptions, couple with children households, which we traditionally know of as a father, a mother, and their children, well, surprisingly or unsurprisingly for many of you, are not the majority in the world. Instead, what we see is that there is a huge diversity in household types across the globe, as you can see here on this infographic, and lone parent households, which means that there is an adult in the family, there are child or children in their household, and no one else living in the household, actually comprise 8% of all households type. And in fact, in sub-Saharan Africa and in Latin America and the Caribbean, as you will see on the right side of the infographic, 1 in 10 households are lone parent households, so even higher than the global average of 8%. So this is just to recognize that lone parent households are a significant part of the global diversity of all households, and they should be recognized as a major household type in statistics. So next slide, please. Let's get a bit deeper into who lives in these lone parent households. As expected, and that's the reason why we are here today, lone mothers are the overwhelming majority of lone parent households, about 84.3%. Now, like our moderator mentioned, there may be so many reasons why a person may choose to be a lone parent, and especially true for women. They may sometimes not even choose to be that way, but it may just happen. So it's possible that it's because of male migration, intimate partner violence, death of a spouse, abandonment. No list can be exhaustive here. But the main point here is that we see women bearing primary responsibility for child rearing and ensuring the family's economic survival. So like the moderator said, the breadwinner, but also the caregiver in the household. In other words, this lower prevalence of lone father households across all regions, it shows that in most societies, what we see is that mothers are the natural caregivers. That's what they should focus on. And men are more likely to remarry, establish a new home, leaving their offspring in the care of their mothers or female relatives, and so on and so forth. So next slide, please. In terms of the age composition, I really like this figure because it's so telling. The mother-child households globally are most likely to include adult women aged 25 to 34 and 35 to 59. So that peak productive and reproductive years of women's lives. And they are living with one or more children under the age of 18. So here on the slide, you can see the two purple bands that represent these two very significant groups when we cut these data by age distribution. 35.5% and 17.5 respectively. And I'm only looking at the global right now for 35 to 59 and 25 to 34. Then I think what's more telling is that the proportion of younger lone mothers, so those who are below the age of 25, those are the greens that you see on the slide. The greens, they are heading one parent households, their proportion is 3.4%. Now, you may think to seem, oh, it's just 3.4%, but this relatively small proportion amounts to 3.8 million extremely vulnerable young women, many of whom are even below the age of 70. They are living alone with their children. They are the only caregivers in the household and the only breadwinners in the household. In sub-Saharan Africa, this proportion, that 3.4 that I was showing you globally, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa on the slide, is actually 6.4%. So I think as we listen to the dialogue today, as we listen to all of the other colleagues, this is something to keep in mind as policies are being designed for lone mothers. Next slide, please. I also want to emphasize today that when we were doing all of this research and all this number crunching, we realized that maybe instead of single parent or single mothers, we can use another term. We can call them lone parents or lone mothers. And let's see what's the logic here. And I feel like this should be something we should all think about. So what we need to do is we need to recognize that many of the adults living in these households, they may actually not be single. They may have partners, they may have other relatives who live with them. But what really binds them as part of this one household is that they are the lone or only parent of their child. Although in some cases, there may be other arrangements as well. So in our distinction, lone mothers may be single, divorced, separated, whatever they may like as their marital status, and they may also be co-residing with their children only, or they might be embedded in extended households. And this definition has implications in the way lone mothers are counted in official statistics. So as you see here on this slide, what we see is that globally, half of the lone mothers, they live in extended households, which means that if we consider adult women who live with their children and no one else in the household as lone mothers, we should also consider adult women who are the only parent of their child but live in extended households with other relatives such as parents or in-laws also as lone mothers. As you can see, if we don't do that, we are massively undercounting the total population of lone mothers, which has huge impacts from the policy perspective. So we estimate that globally there are 101.3 million women who are lone mothers, but whose reality and possible vulnerability, income, care needs, they are not visible to policymakers because they are just not counted in official statistics. Huge data gaps in that sense. Simply because most household surveys are designed using the head of the household as the anchor to define all family ties, a spot which is implicitly and sometimes explicitly reserved for the man in the household. This gender bias means that in larger households, such as in extended households, relationships between members will not be adequately captured, making it difficult to identify lone mothers. When no adult is present in a household, a woman with children living with other relatives in the household, she can be identified, with other female relatives in the household, she can be identified as the lone mother. But when a lone mother is living with her in-laws and multiple other relatives, especially when there is a man in the household, she can almost never be identified as a lone mother in an extended household. So as we think about the discussion today, remember this green and blue distinction on how the different household types shape how lone mothers live and what's really going on within this household type. Next slide, please.
Andrea, so sorry to interrupt you, but your time is almost up. So sorry.
Yes, I just have one more slide. Great. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on and discuss a little bit about considerations related to unpaid care work when it comes to lone mothers, very important from the policy perspective as well. Main thing to recognize here is we've said over and over again, breadwinner, caregiver, they're both, and incredibly challenging task for women. And the situation with unpaid care work was important to consider before the COVID crisis, but now it's even more crucial to consider this now that things have completely changed from the care perspective with school closures. You can see here on this slide, I've put an example of the Philippines, which shows how lone mothers struggled during the pandemic with extra care burdens. This is a message we are seeing all across where UN Women has conducted rapid gender assessments. So when making policies or thinking about what we are doing on the ground, we need to keep the care discussion central along with access to decent work. So finally, with my last slide, I'm going to wrap up. And I wanted to let you know that if you wanted to delve more into this topic, have a look at UN Women's Progress of the World's Women Report, specifically Chapter 2, which focuses a lot on demographics of lone mothers. And there's a full chapter on care as well, also including some other resources that you might like. With that, I know my time is up. So with thanks to you, Anne, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Antra. So that's a really important point that we need to really be aware that there are many more lone mothers, as you call them, than are actually being counted at the moment. And so the government and different governments around the world will need to take that into account. Thank you. We now move on to our presentations from organisations around the world. And our first presentation is a video message from Nazma Akhter, founder and president of Awaj in Bangladesh. And she's responded to the needs of the many single mothers in the garment sector, where pay is very low, but it's expensive to support both mothers and their children.
My name is Nazma Akhter. I'm the founder of the Awaj Foundation. Awaj Foundation is a grassroots workers' rights organization. We are working, empowering women workers and their leadership. And most of the garment sector we are working and other sector. In garment sector, more than 60% women are single mother. They come from the countryside and they working here, and many cases the men are cheating with them and they have baby and they left. Those women have two families. One family herself is working here to need to survive, and also she need to support her children when the children is stay with their family, like grandmother, aunt, whoever female member in their countryside. So which is very expensive. And the Bangladeshi garments workers are very low, even not $100 per month. So therefore, they need take care of the children, and also breastfeeding rights is a very important for physical, mental growth, and also mother need to be breastfeeding. Otherwise, if she cannot feed her baby, it's also become a breast cancer, and mentally she always depression because her baby is not safe. If we are talking about the decent work, we need to respect the women's and women's what the need. In Bangladesh, we have the law. If there is a more than 40 women are working in the factory, there must be adequate daycare center or crash. But most of the global supply chain who are producing in our country, so-called audit requirement, they need the daycare center, but there is no so many children, and there is many factory doesn't have even the children. Only there is a small space where they keep toys, children games, bed, pillow, kind of things. But there is no child. But if they are not following this, the children's rights and women's rights are breastfeeding rights are violation. The decent work not achieved. Therefore, the international standard, the local legislation must be ensure the women's breastfeeding rights and children breastfeeding rights together, because it's need to be next generation of the poor people or working people's mental, physical, all kind of growthness. So therefore, we request all women who are working in my country, other country, rest of the world, we need to ensure the daycare or crash facility, which is make more productivity, women can earn more money, peace and mentally satisfaction, and children will be happy to be with mother. So we request all of them and we wish all the best, and how do we achieve more women rights and women health. This is very important, and children. So please, let's fight for daycare center and better crash and better future of children as well as the women. Thank you very much.
Nazma raises a really important point. The well-being of mother and child are crucial to the happiness of both, and actually to productivity as well. In these cases, the mothers are working to survive, but if their children can be close so that they can give them the nutrition they need through breastfeeding and love when they need it, it gives the mother also peace of mind and heart. It also raises another really crucial point of the conditions of those who work to produce our clothes or our food, which we so often take for granted. We're going to move to our next speaker, who is Eliska Kodyosova, CEO of Aperio from the Czech Republic. And she's looking, they do training programs, single but strong support for single mothers.
Yes, hello. Can you please turn my video on? Thank you. It's an honor to speak here at this event. So can you please move to the other side so I can present the situation of single parents in the Czech Republic? If you take a look at the slide, you will get an idea what it is like. I think it is pretty much the same as in other European or Western countries. What is specific for the situation in Czech Republic is that there is a larger gap between the well-being and financial situation of single-parent families and two-parent families. The reason is that the Czech families have been traditionally used to have two incomes, and many women after divorce or when they decide to bring up a baby on their own end up overworked. One of the reasons is a very long maternity leave. Many women have to stay with their child at home for about 3 years because work and especially childcare is not available for many children who are younger than 3. And this leads to a gender pay gap that makes it necessary for mothers to work very long hours. This in turn makes her exhausted. Can you please move on to next slide? As you can see from the quotes of the parents who have taken part in our research and in our program. So what we are trying to do in our work is to empower single mothers, to give them confidence in their ability, in their skills and experience to find a better job, to build a better future for them and for their parents, because we see that many of them work in jobs that are not suitable for their qualification, just because they are struggling with work-life balance. Next slide, please. The program that we have developed, Single But Strong, is primarily focused on career development in this case, and it takes inspiration from other programs developed by organizations in Ireland and Scotland, which you can see on the slide here. And if you take a look at how it works, it is built on 2 theories. One of them is the theory of self-efficacy, which is one of the cognitive behavioral psychological theories, which has a lot of research on, and it is proven to work. And also it takes some activities from solution-focused approach in coaching and psychotherapy. And next slide, please. And the way how we structure this program is that we really try to work on the self-esteem of single mothers first. We find this is without promoting their self-esteem, there is no way forward. Then we work on promoting their well-being and self-management. That is trying to give them small pieces, small things that they can do for themselves. And only as a last step, we work on career and personal growth. Next slide, please. So if you're interested to know what the program looks like in practice, basically it is about 40 hours of group sessions. And always there is a 2-day session, and then it is variable. And it is accompanied by e-learning, counseling, coaching, and individual mentoring. Of course, we need to provide to many of the single mothers childcare and travel subsidies, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to take part in the program. Next slide. Thank you. The content that is covered in the program, in this program specifically, is provided not only by facilitators, but mostly by peer mentors. We have asked women who are successful in their careers, mostly mothers or even single mothers, who can show and advise single mothers in our program how to work, how to plan their finance, what their rights are, how to manage work-life balance when you have small children and need to work, and how to work with glass ceiling, how to ask for a promotion or pay rise, and how to change your career if you see that you are stuck somewhere that doesn't suit your skills, or it doesn't fix your needs in the area of finance or work-life balance. Next slide, please. And we have been doing evaluation of this program. I don't want to flood you with data. Just here's one of the groups, graduates of our programs, and we really see that the outcomes are long-term when we follow them for half a year after the programs, and we see that the competences and satisfaction both in life and work areas are still sustained. So if you are interested in this program, please get in touch. Next slide, please. And that's where you will find the program, the contacts.
Thank you, Eliska. You highlight very well the pressures facing particularly single mothers caring and working. We also find at Mothers at Home Matter that self-esteem is very low. So it's really important that is boosted and the morale is kept up. Our next speaker is Mahjouba Edbouche, I hope I got that right, probably not, founder and president of Ahdan in Morocco.
Je m'appelle Edbouche Mahjouba, originaire d'Agadir, c'est-à-dire du sud de Maroc. Actuellement, fondatrice et présidente de l'association Ahdan dans la localité de Tchera, située à 7 km de la ville d'Agadir. Tchera, c'est un point noir. C'est pas que je veux dramatiser, mais c'est la réalité en ce qui concerne la problématique des mères célibataires et aussi de leurs enfants. On se propose régulièrement de prévenir l'abandon des enfants en évitant l'infanticide, menant des campagnes d'information sur le planning familial et l'éducation sexuelle, œuvrant en faveur de l'adoption d'une légalisation des enfants victimes d'abus sexuels, assurant la défense des droits humains de la femme et de l'enfant, assister les mères seules en détresse en ce qui suit, créer des structures d'accueil, créer des foyers d'hébergement, créer des crèches pilotes, ouvrir une crèche de jour et de nuit 24 heures sur 24, 7 sur 7 pour les enfants à partir de 41 jours à 6 ans achevés, afin de maintenir le lien avec la mère et prévenir l'abandon et de libérer celle-ci pour aller travailler. Ouverture d'un foyer d'hébergement d'urgence, propriétaire de l'association Ahdan, pour une période précise concernant les bénéficiaires en situation de détresse. Organiser un accompagnement pré- et postnatal pour les aider à garder leur bébé, ainsi qu'une écoute, un appui médical et psychologique et un suivi dans les démarches administratives et judiciaires. Et quand on parle de tout ce qui est administratif, c'est la première des choses, c'est soit la mère n'a pas d'identité, il faut la faire, il faut lui faire l'identité. Et pour faire l'identité à l'enfant, il faut que la mère ait une identité. Et aussi dans les procédures judiciaires, soit de reconnaissance de paternité, soit aussi, d'élaboration des actes de mariage avec leurs partenaires s'ils veulent. Comme vous le savez, le Maroc est un pays musulman dont le sujet est très difficile et très délicat. La société civile a mené un très grand combat pour pouvoir parler de la mère et de la problématique en général. On ne va pas ignorer quand même le grand travail qu'a fait le gouvernement avec les concernés, seulement dans sur le volet de l'enfant. En ce qui concerne l'identité, la reconnaissance de paternité et aussi l'ADN, malheureusement, qui ne rentre pas dans le processus de la mère célibataire pour beaucoup de raisons que je ne peux pas expliquer maintenant. Ça veut dire que tout ce qui concerne l'enfant, puisqu'on a signé sur les droits de l'enfant, le gouvernement a pu y arriver à cerner la situation de l'enfant. Mais malheureusement, et je le redis encore une fois, la mère en tant que maman, qu'il a péché, qu'il n'a pas péché, n'a aucune situation, il reste toujours sur le volet de celle qui a péché. Le sujet que vous avez touché est très important pour nous et pour tout le monde. Je crois pour la femme en général dans le monde entier. Et ça m'a beaucoup impressionné. Le titre, c'est « Ne laissez aucune mère célibataire derrière ». Cette mère, quelle qu'il soit, c'est une maman. C'est une femme qui a conçu un enfant. Je ne vais pas en parler des conséquences de séparation, surtout brusque, entre la maman et son enfant.
Wow. Mahjouba is a wonderful example of a very human and compassionate response to the really dire circumstances these young single mothers face, or lone mothers face. And she brings hope and love, acknowledging them as mothers, as fellow human beings, and not sort of the downcast of society. It's just a wonderful example. We move on now to Lydia Anyengo, founder and director of Passion to Share Foundation in Kenya. Lydia looks at community-based solutions, seeking to answer the needs as they arise to empower young lone mothers in the Kibera slums in Kenya.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lydia Opio. I run Passion to Share Foundation, and Passion to Share Foundation believes in the power of young women and young mothers especially. We have so far been able to empower over 50 women, and out of them, 60% of those are young mothers. And this is the reason. We are a non-governmental organization, and we founded this organization in 2017, registered in Kenya, and our main focus is in young mothers. And when we started, we basically started with the mentorship. So we will talk to the young girls in Kibra, and let them know that having teenage pregnancies should not be a priority to them. We tried to talk to them, but we realized with time that the rate at which young girls were getting pregnant was too high. And as I talk now, 25% of girls in Kibra below 15 to 19 years have kids. And this is, this is so worrying. And this is why Passion to Share Foundation decided to support young mothers. And looking at it, the problem within Kibra is that Kibra is, we call it the hub of poverty, Kibra is poverty stricken, and we can attribute the pregnancy issues to poverty, because these young girls, these poor parents, they give birth to so many kids. And what happens is that a young girl who's gone up to Form 4 is told to drop out of school. And then what happens to this girl? She has no future, she has no hope, and they opt to get married. So that is why Passion to Share came in to intervene. We started by mentorship. We tried to talk to the young mothers. It was not enough. We proceeded to establish a skills program that tries to help these young mothers to be able to get a skill so that they can take care of themselves. Something about me is that I grew up in Kayole slums and later got married in Kibra slums. And everything that I saw in Kayole slums was replicated in Kibra slums. This is whereby girls are going into prostitution in order to take care of their children. They go sell their bodies. We have girls who are going into criminal activities, like, girls doing robbery with violence to be able to take care of their kids. And so all this situation was really worrying. And as a young woman who's very passionate about young and single mothers, we had to bring in an intervention through Passion to Share Foundation. And we decided to have a skill center. We call it Gift Her Hand Center. This center has saved lives in Kibra. We have had girls who come here to train. We have had girls who have been very successful through this program. I'll mention but a few, but for now, I'll mention it that as Passion to Share progressed and realized the plight of young mothers in Kibra, we identified so many issues that these young girls were going through. And some of them was when they are coming for the skills training program, they used to come with their kids and they will leave them at the reception. And it was really worrying, Some of them opted to lock their kids inside the houses, which was very worrying because Kibra is their houses are made of iron sheets. We have so many fire situations in Kibera slums. And this is so worrying when a mother locks a child inside the house to be able to come for a training. So this is really worrying. And that is why at some point when we noticed it was too much and these girls really thirsted for the skills and they wanted to come and get the skills, we decided let us introduce a space for them to be able to keep their children. So as they came for the training, they were able to have a space to keep their children, and we call it Cocomelon Daycare. Cocomelon is just a cartoonish name that we love so much, and we decided let's establish a nice space where these girls can keep their kids and also be able to go and breastfeed when they're having their breaks in between the training. So the skills program offers girls in Kibra 6 months training. We do not charge, it's free of charge. It's a sponsored program, but we've been really struggling to have girls here because of the training and everything. But we have really tried, and so far we've been able to impact 50 of them. The greatest challenge was where they get their kids, and that's why we established Cocomelon to be able to enable these girls to keep their kids. Something else is we realized they also miss a space where they can, a platform to be able to save and borrow money. So we have introduced a platform for young mothers in Kibra to borrow money. We call it Genoa program. Genoa is a Luo word to mean our hope. So it's basically a space and a platform for our young mothers to be able to borrow money and also save their money and do their own businesses. Passion to Share also established Mio Creations, whereby at Mio Creations, we have given these young mothers a platform to be able to sell their products, which they make after the training. I said we offer fashion and design, and we also offer graphics course. So for the products they make, we have also been able to offer like a marketplace for young mothers. So that is the intervention we have really tried to bring in. But all this, the challenge we have been facing quite some challenges in the process. And some of them, especially the space, we have a very small space in the heart of Kibra, and we have so many girls who come for this course and who really want to be part of this. Girls who want to change their lives, who want to come out of criminal activities, young mothers who want to leave prostitution. It's in Kibra where we've witnessed a young mother who's locking up a child inside the house at night, an 8-month-old baby who's being locked inside the house at night for the mother to go out there and just do prostitution to be able to find food for that baby. So such things are the reason we as Passion to Share Foundation came up with this project to give young mothers an option that it is not for them to sell their bodies to earn money, but they can do something else for their lives. So far, so good. Passion to Share is doing well, apart from the obvious challenges, which is the ongoing poverty in Kibra. Kibra is a hub of poverty, and so many young girls are going through what they are going through because of poverty. So many young girls are getting into teenage pregnancies because of poverty. They're not doing this. Sometimes we don't judge them. That's why we give them second chances. As a young mother, we give them a second chance because the young mothers in Kibra and in Kenya and in Africa are harshly judged. So Passion to Share Foundation has come in to try to solve the problems of young mothers so that as they raise their children, as they raise this generation, they are not going to raise a generation that will be hopeless and, just there. We are trying to make them raise their children in a better way, to be able to find, to get like better education for their children, because among the reasons why they are going through what they are going through is that the Kibra has a lot of uneducated parents, so they don't care about the education of girls.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you because this is so important, but your time is up. I'm so sorry. So if you may conclude in a few words, thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. And I'm really grateful for this platform. And if you want to join us, you can check us out on www.passiontosharefoundation.org, and you'll see the amazing work that we are doing in Kibra and how passionate we are about young mothers and just empowering the young mothers. Thank you so much.
Lydia, thank you so much. I think that's just it's a terrible situation, and a wonderful response from you and everyone working with you to the really dire needs. Thank you. Our next presentation is a video message from Adriana Abraham, founder and director of CSocD in Uruguay.
Uruguay es un país envejecido donde no nacen niños, y los pocos niños que nacen y crecen en los sectores más pobres. Muchas mujeres incluso se ven obligadas a abortar por razones socioeconómicas. Hace 25 años fundamos CSocD con la misión de atender y promover a la mujer madre que atraviesa situaciones de alto riesgo social. Entre las razones de riesgo mencionamos, por supuesto, el desempleo, el bajo nivel de instrucción, violencia doméstica, embarazo en situación de desamparo, migrantes, mujeres que están saliendo del sistema penitenciario, etc. ¿Por qué la mujer madre? Porque la inversión que se realiza en la madre impacta directamente en las condiciones de vida de niños y adolescentes. Recibimos al año una demanda de aproximadamente 1.500 a 2.000 mujeres de todo Montevideo y zona metropolitana. CSocD lleva adelante un modelo metodológico de triple impacto: social, económico y ambiental. En cuanto al impacto social, un equipo de recepción va a diseñar con la mujer un proyecto de vida educativo, laboral, que tenga en cuenta sus aptitudes y sus intereses a la vez que las exigencias del mercado. El objetivo es que pueda sostener a su familia con dignidad y autonomía. El programa Porvenir tiene a cargo la atención y la promoción de la mujer embarazada y los niños pequeños hasta aproximadamente 6 meses de vida. Sabemos que ninguna empresa da trabajo a la mujer durante los meses de embarazo. Esto significa que en el momento de mayor vulnerabilidad muchas veces queda sola y sin posibilidades de generar ingresos. La experiencia nos dice que cuando la mujer accede a oportunidades concretas en el momento oportuno, sigue adelante con su embarazo y los niños vienen al mundo en condiciones dignas. CSocD cuenta con un espacio infantil que es lo que ha permitido que cientos de mujeres jóvenes puedan capacitarse y comenzar un proceso de inclusión económica. Muchas mujeres llegan en situación de violencia doméstica buscando alternativas que le permitan autonomía económica para poder romper con el círculo de violencia. Un equipo de profesionales acompaña a la mujer durante todo el proceso a fin de que pueda sostenerlo ante situaciones de crisis. En cuanto al impacto económico, el programa Promover es el programa que está enfocado en la capacitación y el apoyo a la inserción laboral de la mujer. La mujer puede elegir entre una serie de cursos según sus aptitudes y sus intereses, siempre conforme a las exigencias del mercado. Además de la capacitación técnica, el proceso implica habilidades transversales que tienen que ver con las habilidades blandas, con informática, alfabetización digital, con emprendedurismo, etc. Un equipo va a estar también apoyando la inserción laboral formal en empresas. Por otro lado, la mujer puede elegir entre esta inserción formal o la posibilidad de generar su propio emprendimiento productivo, es decir, el autoempleo. A través de un consultorio emprendedor y del asesoramiento de mentores voluntarios, la mujer puede desarrollar su proyecto desde la idea inicial hasta el despegue del negocio. Una vez culminado este proceso y cuando ella ya tiene un emprendimiento en marcha, puede participar del club de emprendedoras, es decir, un espacio de mayor autonomía donde entre ellas mismas se organizan para comercializar mejor sus productos. CSocD también genera un impacto ambiental, es decir, muchos de sus negocios tienen que ver con la economía circular, con la posibilidad de reutilizar material de desecho que aportan las empresas para convertirlos en productos nuevos que vuelven revalorizados al mercado con diseño, con calidad. Las empresas, a través del programa de negocios inclusivos, pueden comprar productos elaborados por las madres a gran escala y esto genera ingresos más significativos y más estables para las mujeres. Este programa se está además expandiendo al interior del país, ya estamos en numerosos departamentos trabajando en pequeñas localidades donde las mujeres tienen aún menos oportunidades de comercializar sus productos, menos posibilidades de acceder al mercado. Este modelo de inclusión económica nos mereció el Premio a los Derechos Humanos en el 2020 por la Unión Europea. Consideramos que solo trabajando juntos, el Estado, la sociedad civil, el sector empresarial, los organismos internacionales...
Wow, that's another amazing video. I think what struck me, Adriana was saying that they support the mother particularly because the mother has a direct impact on children and the family, and that obviously directly impacts society. And I think it's just amazing how they look at the family, the mother and her talents, and develop the talents and find an outlet for that in the economic realm. Another amazing project. We now move to Yolanda Arias Gonzalez, Director of Human Resources at the Fundación Isadora Duncan in Spain. Welcome.
Hello, good day to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We don't have much time, so without further ado, I'm going to talk about some of our programs. Family financial education. This concept has become fashionable, at least in our country, in recent years, especially all as a result of the global crisis of 2008, and is normally used to sell to society that everyone has to learn to invest to make their capital, their asset saving profitable and make your money work for you. At Isadora Duncan, we prefer to focus on a more realistic approach based on the needs of single-parent families, almost always single women with children, with basic or very limited resources that may or may not have work. Families for which paying all their bills at the end of the month is already a difficult task. And precisely because of this, they must manage their money judiciously, select their expenses carefully, and avoid falling into unaffordable and over-indebtedness. It is therefore vital to support these families so that they use all the means within their reach. We believe this to be the best training strategy. Main challenges. 1. The banking of our lives. To have a bank account, insurance policies, and access to credit for the purchase of durable goods of other necessity is not an option. We require these tools to lead a normal life. This means that we must understand their terms and conditions, interpret their contracts, weigh options, and learn about possible public aid and how to access them. From Isadora Duncan, we have observed how many women who become single-parent families, due to whatever the reason may be, have never faced anything like this. And although experience is a good teacher, along the way many mistakes can be made. 2. Consumption, crisis, and over-indebtedness. Living with just enough is hard, without the possibility of saving any unforeseen expense and cannot be postponed, represent a challenge and anguish with a serious load of psychological anxiety. This is well known to many financial companies, which have designed products miracle to alleviate us, at least momentarily, even if they create a lifelong problem for us down the road. Over-indebtedness is a serious danger with long-lasting consequences that feeds on the most vulnerable and has its best ally in the ignorance of customers. 3. Precarious jobs and entrepreneurship. Single-parent families have a double discrimination for employment intrinsic to all women and those added by the need to be sole caregivers of dependent people, their children, and in societies as age as ours, they often end up taking care of other relatives as well. This implies lower paid jobs with a professional career, part-time, that is, less income and more instability. In recent years, entrepreneurship has been sold from all walks of life as best alternative to find a way out of this situation, from franchise companies to even the government, which has implied the continuous opening and closing of small businesses, in many cases ruinous for single-parent families, where they have exhausted their hopes and dreams and their family resources. We agree with entrepreneurship, but if it makes sense, that is, first learn and evaluate, then decide. 4. Economic violence. Although recognized as one of the forms of violence against women in the International Istanbul Convention, the reality is that against this form of violence, almost no country, Spain neither, has developed anything socially or legally. It continues to be one of the forms of pressure and control most suffered by women, especially at the time of separation, which is why it fully affects many single-parent families. Learning to prevent it first and defend yourself if it occurs. With all possible weapons, we believe is a major challenge. Energy poverty. It has become a serious problem, especially after the pandemic and the current energy crisis in Europe. The cost of fuel and electricity represent a heavy economic burden for many families and especially for single parents. If we add to this inflation and the rising cost of rents and housing in general, we find that more than 50% of disposable income of a single-parent family type is spent on housing and derived energy costs, electricity, heating, and domestic hot water, etc. Learning and developing strategies to contain its impact is now more necessary than ever. To effectively exercise rights, now what supplies and which options are the less harmful to our economies and prevent as much as possible falling into situation of energy poverty, has led us to progressively expand our activities in this field without losing sight of the fact that the so-called poverty energy is a sum of income, quality of the home we live in and price of energy. We always like to emphasize quality and access to housing, since our families needs homes adapted to their needs and financial situation, which meet acceptable building standards and that limit the risk of falling into situation of energy poverty. Methodology, instruments, and practices. Our initiative consists on 3 main axes.
Sorry to interrupt you, your time is almost up, so sorry if you could conclude in a few words.
Sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your time is almost up.
Okay, just a minute, please. Every year, we train more than 100 families in our workshops. We exceeded 500 advisories on energy matters, and our action of dissemination and awareness have improved the situation of thousands of families, especially single parents, by allowing change in the design of public policies, achieving making visible and making them recognize a specific situation and problems. Our foundation is small and our resources limited. We don't intend to reach everywhere. It would be impossible, so we try to create collaboration networks with other social organizations or public administration, as well as national and international networks. And our website are www.gestionfamiliar.es, www.cuentasdepagobásicas.es, www.isadoraduncan.es. And we have a state observation of single parent families to monitoring of social policies and their penetration. Thank you very much for the invitation, and we hope that meeting like this can help us to improve our lives. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yolanda. And I think you can find her links in the chat. I think we can hear you. Oh no, they're gone now. Okay, thank you very much, Yolanda. That's another example of meeting a need that they see that is seen on the ground, particularly in the financial area of support. Just to remind you that do ask some questions in the question and answer chat box, Q&A rather box at the bottom, and we can look at them at the end. I think it's our last presentation, and that's Jean-Philippe Biamungu, Director of HAD en avant les enfants from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and it's a video message. Thank you.
Parce que les mères sont la source de notre vie, nous ne devrions pas croiser les doigts lorsqu'ils traversent une situation inhumaine. À Goma, à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo, les filles sont violées et deviennent mères précocement. Ces derniers abandonnés de tout le monde, c'est ainsi que la ferme école agroécologique VSK Vijana Sote Kazini, Jeunes tous au travail en Swahili, soutenue par En avant les enfants Belgique, a organisé une formation pour leur permettre l'autonomisation. Après la formation en agriculture, en élevage de poules, élevage de lapins et en apiculture, ces mères reçoivent un kit de démarrage. Grâce à l'activité génératrice de revenus, elles deviennent autonomes. Et cette autonomisation de la femme, c'est qui nous permet de les réintégrer dans la communauté, parce qu'elles deviennent actrices de leur développement. Au fur et à mesure que cette activité génératrice de revenus est en train de bien évoluer, ces mères arrivent à subvenir aux besoins de leurs enfants en vendant quelques lapins, en vendant quelques poules, en vendant du miel. Elles arrivent à payer les frais scolaires de leurs enfants. Elles arrivent à nourrir leurs enfants. Et aussi, elles participent dans l'environnement parce que elles ont des pépinières et font aussi la distribution et vente des arbres dans la communauté. Nous avons initié une brigade verte où ces mères sont en train de travailler dans les jardins, sont en train de contribuer à planter les arbres à Goma. Nous avons des histoires de succès. Après avoir suivi la formation en agroécologie, une de ces dames est venue me témoigner sa réussite. Grâce au lapin que nous avons donné, elle arrive à scolariser son enfant. Quelqu'un qui était marginalisé après avoir été violé, maintenant aujourd'hui, devient quelqu'un de référence dans la communauté pour soigner les lapins, pour soigner les poules, pour planter les arbres. Elle contribue aussi dans l'environnement.
Thank you. That again, another wonderful example. I love the phrase "mothers are the source of our life," and you know, it's giving mothers hope, dignity, and a way forward, and a way forward to feed the children and to become autonomous. It's really wonderful. Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe, and your organisation. I think we now move on to our next part, and we have. I've just suddenly lost my slide. I'm really sorry. We have Johanna Schima, who's going to speak to us. Welcome, Johanna.
Thank you, and thank you, and good morning, and afternoon, and evening for everybody. I would like to present to you today an EU initiative that could support mothers who are single mothers and non-mothers in the EU. That is the European Child Guarantee, which is unique worldwide, and is the first EU-level policy instrument which to address disadvantage and exclusion in childhood, considering that 1 out of 4 children in Europe live in households at risk of poverty and social exclusion. Second slide, please. The Child Guarantee is a Council recommendation of the European Union adopted by unanimity in 2021, which aims to provide children in need with access to a set of key services: early childhood education and care, education including school-based activities, healthcare, nutrition, and housing. Third, please. And member states of the European Union are recommended to identify the children in need, and within this group take into account a specific disadvantage experienced in particular by the children that you see on this list. I would like to draw your attention to the letter F. Children in precarious family situation. These are defined as children exposed to various risk factors that could lead to poverty or to social exclusion. These include, among others, living in a single earner household, living with a parent with disabilities, children having a teenage mother or being a teenage mother themselves. And it's under this category that we find the families headed by a single parent, which in their majority or single lone parents. In the EU, 85% are single mothers. Number 4, please. Some important points that I would like to highlight today about the Child Guarantee is that it asks the member states of the European Union to provide services or provide adequate benefits so that parents or guardians of children in need are in a position to cover the cost of the charges of those services. It recognizes that the intergenerational transmission of social exclusion jeopardizes social cohesion over generations and generates higher costs to our welfare states. That investing in equal opportunities for children lays the foundation for a sustainable and inclusive growth and supporting fair and resilient societies. And it acknowledges that improving equal access of children in need to key services is an important effort to prevent and combat social exclusion. To implement this recommendation, the member states are asked to appoint a national coordinator. Currently, all the member states of the EU have appointed their national coordinators, and to adopt national action plans covering a period until 2030. At the moment, out of the 27 member states of the EU, 19 have presented their national action plans to the EU Commission. And the member states are asked to report every 2 years to the Commission on their progress of the implementation. Different union funds are available to support the implementation of the Child Guarantee. Number 5, please. The role of the civil society, especially via the Alliance for Investing in Children, has been paramount in achieving the Child Guarantee. This alliance of over 30 civil society organizations led by Save the Children and Eurochild, of which MMM is a partner, has been advocating and playing a proactive role in all these changes with the EU institutions. And one can say that the Child Guarantee is what it is today, thanks to the advocacy work of the Alliance, since the majority of its demands were taken and included in the Council recommendation. Which are the MMM recommendations? MMM acknowledges that the fact that the Child Guarantee takes a comprehensive approach in tackling child and family poverty, looks at parents' access to resources and at children's participation in decision making. Nevertheless, we believe in MMM, and we will continue advocating for, first, that member states include provisions of maternal health care and address barriers faced by mothers in need, considering that maternal health care is crucial for early childhood and the education and care and child health. Second, for consulting also parents and including parents' participation in its implementation, and to include support for parents, not only in terms of measures to go back to work, but through a comprehensive support that includes, for example, psychological support, strengthening the parent and child relationship, parental skills, recognizing family crisis, helping to keep the family together. And we will continue, of course, advocating for a comprehensive support that takes into consideration the specific difficulties that lone mothers face. We believe that these points are crucial to effectively combat the cycle of poverty, since children's rights are best met in the family environment, and the interests of the children cannot be defined separately from the interests of the parents. And as the 2000 Nobel Prize in Economy Professor James Heckman proves in his research on shaping policies for welfare of children, the importance of mothering and parenting is universal. Skills provided to parents will stay with them even after the programs are finished and will bring higher returns. with this, I think I finished my presentation of a good example that many other countries worldwide could copy and improve. And of course, at MMM and the Alliance for Investment in Children, we will continue advocating and controlling and monitoring the implementation of this child guarantee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanna. That's really interesting. I think we open now to the Q&A session. I think I'd like to ask a question. It may seem a silly question, but so I mean, some of the situations we've seen are really desperate, and one thing you can't help noticing is the absence of the father. I know some of the cases the father just is gone, and there's cases of rape and war. But is there anything that can be done to make the father more responsible? Because the mother is growing up in such poverty, and the children, or is just that too big a problem? Is there anything that can be done at governmental level, or does it have to is it just to focus on the lone parent and the children? Is that to Johanna?
Yeah, I can. We are, of course, dealing with this question a lot, and I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were asking me.
Oh, no, sorry, anyone.
Oh, okay. It is. I think that we are right now. There is a work-life balance directive being implemented in many of the European states, and we are trying to take advantage of one of this intents, and that is. Really offering paid leave that is reserved strictly for fathers or for the non-primary caregiver. And this is only one of the things, paying fathers to stay at home with children, because we see that this involvement in early childcare has a deep impact in building a relationship that lasts a lifetime. And we really believe that it is not only about paying parents, but it is also about showing examples, discussing publicly about, that it's not having breasts that makes you a good parent, that not only women can be sensitive caregivers. Of course, mothers and fathers have had traditionally different roles, but we need to talk about how these roles can change, and that even though they will never be equal, or not equal, they will never be the same, they can still be more flexible than they have been in past. And we need to really stop. We really need to be sensitive to prejudices against fathers as caregivers, and also to this. Sometimes I can also hear mothers saying things like, especially in the Czech Republic, where the parenting leave is so long, and when mothers are really staying at home for a long time, they don't trust fathers to be able to take an active role in childcare, in dressing the child properly. They always have to supervise them, and I think that we should really leave the agency to fathers. And we mothers don't become good parents by just being born parents. We have to learn and make our own mistakes. So let's just give this opportunity to everyone who is a parent.
Thank you. There's a question here. It says, being a single parent in Africa is seen as a moral issue, as against other developed nations that has provisions and laws on child support and homes for unemployed or teenage mothers. Therefore, our context differs, as single mothers, also known as unmarried mothers, do not have the support except for CSOs in Africa. How and where can grassroots CSOs doing so much continue to receive sustained support? Lydia, can you answer that, or Jean-Philippe? Is it a moral issue in Africa? Is that part of the problem you face? And do you get any support from at governmental level, or is it all the work that you do? Are you very much on your own?
Si je peux répondre, if I can answer, because Jean-Philippe only speaks French,
Yeah.
about mother in Congo. Unfortunately, in the east of Congo, it's really a situation nearly of war. So it has been, this part of the country has been so much attacked for so many decades that there is no rules, no social rules. Before, the child was the child of the community and was protected. Now it is not the case anymore. So as I said to Valerie yesterday, the girls are twice the victim. Once they are being raped, and secondly, they are being put aside because there is a lack of social rules, but still the wars are still going on. And it's really very, very important to see that the job of Jean-Philippe, and it's really a mission that he took good care of, is to give the opportunity to those women to find a new dignity by being expert in a field where they don't need to go to school. They just need to get technical capacities, and it's wonderful. In a 6 months training, it can change the position that they have in the community.
Yes, that is wonderful. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the government is not helping. There is no government acting for the people. It's a state where everybody is stealing as much as they can. The more power they have, the most. I mean, they are taking everything for themselves. I'm very upset every time I go there, and we try to do our best with those girls, and it changed their lives tremendously.
Thank you. Yeah, I can see you're doing amazing work. Thank you. We've had such an array of slides and presentations, and I think you know, from very dire consequences, it's certain areas are really, you know, very critical situations so less sort of dire situations. In a way, the need is very different in different countries. Oh, sorry, we have another question here for Untra. What would your recommendations be to improve the visibility on lone mothers? And I'm sure it's very different across, because we've had such a wide, like I was just saying, we have such a wide range of situations. In the West, it's very different from obviously in Africa. And do you look at things separately? How do you look at the statistics?
Sure. Yeah, no, sure. I think this is a very important question, especially because there is so much diversity, like we're saying, all across the globe. There isn't one thing that works well in one context that we can just apply all across. But like I was saying in my presentation, I think the first thing is to properly count people in statistics so they can be then visible to policymakers, what we see today. And that's why I really I'm always interested in the regional, the age, the bisex distribution of all of the data that we have, because if we don't look at the intersectionality point of view, we lose so much information. So if we're only looking at women, men, their population, that's fine, but that doesn't tell you what's the reality of the lone mothers, or what's the reality of lone mothers of a very young age, like Lydia was talking about. That's a very vulnerable population that we should be thinking about. So I think in terms of recommendations, since I have a very strong data background, the first from me is that we need to count people properly. And for that, we need household surveys that are really taking into consideration a completely new approach, which entails not just looking at the head of the household, but going down to the individuals who live there and trying to understand their situations, their realities as well. So I think that would be the first and foremost starting point.
Yeah, thank you. Lydia, would you like to say any more about the situation as you see it?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the situation in Kibera, like you are asking about the support, if they receive any support. I think in Kibera it's worse, and I should say not only in Kibera, but in Kenya it is worse because one, as a young mother, you are judged harshly, as I talked about it earlier. And what happens in most families is that they are chased away. And if you visited Kibra, we have railways, railway lines, and you find out that most of these young girls, when they give birth, some of them end up throwing their own kids into those railway lines so that the train will just come and crush them. It's not an easy sight for us to wake up to every morning or most of the mornings, but that is the truth. That's what happens in families, that when you get pregnant, when you're a young mother, they chase you away from your home. The family will not support you, especially dads. They will never support a teenage mom. They will chase them away. And if there's a lot of stigma surrounded into the young mother issues, and it is the same for the government, you know, there's nothing special. I would wish that there will be some special, maybe like the daycares, for example, there will be some special package for a single mother who is really struggling to bring up their kid, even in terms of education, because you realize these single mothers, most of them cannot even take their kids to schools. You know, they cannot afford the school fees we are paying. So there's no support at all for young mothers. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're coming to a close of the session. I mean, what's been made really obvious that there's so many wonderful organizations just really meeting really critical needs. And I'd just like to thank you all for the work you're doing. You know, I think the most important thing is that you're treating people as human beings, and, you know, you're providing hope and providing love, and these mothers are going to pass that on to their children. You know, that the mother is so important. I mean, as I think the father is too, but they will be raising the next generation, and then what they feed to their children will grow up in and will be nurtured, and what you're providing those mothers is so important. So, you know, thank you very much for your work. And it's obviously an area that needs to be highlighted more, and is very different across the globe. Let's keep going. So thank you all very much. And I'm going to pass you now to, I think, Valerie, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much. Well, this was a very rich and interesting exchange, and I must say at times very moving as well. So I'd like to warmly thank our speakers for sharing their knowledge, their experience, their passion, and their dedication. I think we've had quite a spectrum of concrete solutions to support single mothers in different contexts across the world, both on the ground and at the policy level. So again, a very, very big thank you. And I'm really looking forward to further collaborating with each of you on the topic. We are indeed very grateful to our moderator, Anne Fennell, for so skillfully guiding the discussion and for her commitment to the event. Anne is not only the chair of our member in the UK Mothers at Home Matter, but she's also the mother of 6 boys, so very, very busy. So thank you so much, Anne, again.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I'd like also to acknowledge the MMM team, which has been behind the organization of this event. With special thanks to indispensable Shanaz, with whom you interacted in the chat, Joanna, who was so much more than a speaker, Marie-Liesse, our in-house interpreter, as well as Laurence and Constance in Brussels, Jackie and Carol in New York, Melanie and Justine in Geneva. And last but not least, many thanks to you all, the participants, for joining us today. And yeah, just to let you know that the recording of the event will be posted on our website in a few days. And there will definitely be some follow-up stories. So please stay tuned. And many thanks again, and bye-bye for now.
Bye.